So, do you know what you want? Ask yourself that, do you know what you want? If you don't, I must suggest, before you can start to run around with every Tom, Dick or Harry or Mary, I must say that you go to the Lord in prayer. Seek God for who you ought to be with. And you know what? Sometimes observation from a distance makes a big difference. So you want to observe the person before you start to declare anything or start to run around with them, just trying to see if this is going to work or not.
Like, you can say that again.
Yeah. So before you just start running around with just anybody, I suggest that you start to seek God and observe the person from a distance first. Get to know their behavior. Find out a little bit about it. Back in the days when you want to get married, the family would send an entourage to find out more about the person.
Right.
Now, thank God we're living in a more liberal world and times, and we're not as hard and fast as we used to be. But I think it is also important to adopt some attitude, of being somebody who can accept advice from other people. If you just want to do what you want to do, there's a way that seemeth right unto man, and the end thereof is destruction. So how about you considering your ways and get some advice from people around? All right. Now, the other thing is unrealistic expectations. Firstly, they don't know what they want. The second thing is unrealistic expectations. Now, if you are trying to get somebody that matches up to some big screen, model, I'm afraid that you're going to be highly disappointed, because all you get to see on screen is the looks, but not their emotions or how they behave in private. And that is why it is so important to know that your courtship and your marriage is not a soap opera. It's not your soapy. You don't live in your box, in your TV box. Life is real. And that is why if you have unrealistic expectations, then also, Malungi, people always, they come in and they say, I ask them, but what made you marry the person in the first place? I thought that they will change. All right. So they have these expectations of them, thinking that at some point they're going to meet those expectations, but it is going against their character type. It's not in keeping with who they are. And 5 years down the line, you find that this is not panning out as you planned. And then you suddenly say, you know what? I don't want to be with this person. Now, you don't get married with a divorce as a default setting. Okay? It just don't work that way. For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. I rather that you make up your mind now. We got the school of marriage going. And, the first thing that we do at the school of marriage is a relationship test. And the relationship test tells us whether you are in a toxic relationship or not. Part of their homework is to go back and discuss all of the issues that are creating this toxic environment for them or toxic relationship for them. And some couples end up fighting about it to such a degree that they can't agree on anything. Now, Malungi, I'd rather that they stop it there. If that's going to be the reason for you to say, hey, I can't go any further with this relationship, yes, black and white, it's telling us exactly the condition of our relationship. And if we can't discuss and fix this, then we have a serious problem. Can you imagine then that couple getting married and what's going to happen? I've had many people who actually postponed their weddings, some even cancelled. And you know what? They come back to me years later. And by the way, the school of marriage is almost 6 years old now. And so, our 6th year, people are coming back from the first one and telling, you know what, Doc, we took your advice, we postponed it. And you know what? The school of marriage has done so much for us simply because we were able to work through our differences before we can get married. Now, does that mean you're not going to have differences when you are married? Oh, listen, you will. You will. However, you will have the coping mechanisms to deal with them effectively. So then, you must know what you want. Number 2, unrealistic expectations. Consider, are you putting pressure on somebody who's just never going to meet those expectations? Number 3, emotional instability, Malungi. Emotional instability is another major factor that is becoming more prevalent in this day and age. Lots of people, and you know what, pastors can concur with me, they have been trying to counsel people, marriage issues, and just not getting anywhere. And you just can't understand, how can this person be so difficult? How can this person be so unrealistic, unreasonable? Well, the possibility is that that person has an emotional instability to the point of a psychological disorder. I've dealt with many people like that. And in fact, they have the audacity to tell a professional, you're wrong. Your diagnosis is wrong. They will even lie about you. They will concoct certain stories. And it's like, you know, a person who's committing adultery looks at the whole world and everybody's committing adultery. A person who's a liar feels that everybody lies, so what's the big deal? You know, when you deal with psychologically impaired people, you must expect that they are going to think that you also have a psychological disorder. All right? So they will probably project, and they're going to turn around and tell you, I think you're mad. I think you are off your head. I think you got a mental disorder. They're going to be telling you that, and you're going to be scratching your head thinking, probably something wrong with me. All right? Now, emotional instability is a key to having happiness. If you can't take charge of your emotions, arrest your own emotions, you're going to respond to every little thing from a highly emotional perspective. And your responses, your reactions are going to just create greater problems for you. So before you get married out there, ask yourself, are you single maybe for the fact that you are very emotionally unstable, and that instability is pushing someone away and they're not able to make a commitment to you because they are afraid of the fact that, hey, this is a volatile one, this, and we don't know, you know, today she's here, tomorrow she's somewhere else, and maybe he's the same. And one day is up and another day is down, and that just could be the bipolar spectrum. And so many factors, and you know, I don't have time to explain all of the psychological issues, but emotional instability you can recognize. They are absolutely moody people. They on top of the world at one time, and another time they're just down in the dumps. They're very, very sensitive. They're hypersensitive. They take everything very personally. So gauge the person that you're with. Are you in a relationship right now with an emotionally unstable person? Number 4, inferiority complex. You know, when we speak about inferiority complex, we speak about, you know, image. We speak about self-image. We speak about body image. All of those things. And, you know, in this day and age, we find that due to, you know, the competitive nature of life, that you have to meet a certain standard. I mean, from the magazines to movie sets. I'm glad for South Africa. I'll tell you why. And you know what? I love my country. I have to tell you that. Yeah. And Malungi, in South Africa, we don't make skinny, little, fragile people to be our role models. We can accept we can accept the one that is nice and slim. That's fine. That's good for you. But also the fuller woman is also celebrated in South Africa. The fuller man. Now, when I speak about the fuller man, some men are very full out there. And of course, you know, I'm talking about the bunny chow at lunchtime and the pap and wors in the evening. Right. And they really full people. Now, I'm not talking unhealthy. I'm talking about the fuller guy. You know what I mean? So right. we're not fashioning ourselves by some magazine standard. And therefore, it is so important that we also educate our children that are coming up. Be careful what you tell them. Stop chasing after some international standard for what you ought to be. Come on, what does the Father say? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You have been knitted with such precise and accuracy. I mean, it's amazing how God puts it together. I look at my grandchildren, and especially my grandson right now. He's so small, and I mean, it's amazing to see that something so small can have eyes and nose and fingers, and so beautifully, intricately knitted together. So you are fearfully and wonderfully made. So when we speak about, inferiority complex, it can affect your singleness, because you have an inferiority complex. You can become a very codependent person. You can become very clingy. You hold on to whether you're being abused or not. You just accept it. So
just repeat that one, Doc. You said inferiority complex.
That's right. An inferiority complex will get somebody to become codependent. In other words, they just bend over backwards. They feel it's always their fault. They overcompensate all the time, and they always feel like it's their fault. So whenever things go wrong, they don't see it as somebody else doing them wrong. They actually think that they have done something wrong and they deserve to be abused. Right. So I think it is important for us to understand that these factors can influence one's singleness. Okay, I have to bring it to a close this morning. We'll probably talk a little bit more about it next week and pick up. I think it's quite an